If you want to get in on the action, we want to hear from you. Email us at faderoutemail@gmail.com with your questions, comments, picks, segment suggestions, you name it. We want to hear from you. We're on Instagram too. Slide in our DMs at Fade Route Podcast. Get at us. Welcome to the Fade Route with D and Z. Here are your hosts, D and Z. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Fade Route with D and Z. I am Z, and today was a major day of change in this country. It was Inauguration Day. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have respectively taken their oaths of office and are getting ready to do what they do. It's also a big day of change for the NFL as well, as we say goodbye to Philip Rivers, who announced his retirement today after 17 seasons with the San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, and Indianapolis Colts. Overall, he ranks 5th in NFL history as of right now with almost 64,000 passing yards, trailing only Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Brett Favre. He's been to 8 Pro Bowls, and he's currently 5th in the league with 421 career touchdown passes, behind only Brady, Brees, Manning, and Favre yet again. Now, fantastic career, fantastic numbers, taken in the same draft class as Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger. Eli Manning, as we know, retired last year, so he is the second domino to fall. Rivers is. Big Ben Roethlisberger stands alone from that 2004 draft class. We'll see how long that lasts, but makes you wonder about his legacy. Great regular season quarterback, put up some great numbers, never played in the Super Bowl. Makes you wonder, gives you pause about what Philip Rivers' legacy truly is and where the Indianapolis Colts go from here. And here he is. I've known this guy since our days on Carousel Shoes, flight crew through and through, the last QB in St. John's history. What's up, D? How's it going, man?
Hey, man, just excited to be here. Excited to talk to our new listeners listening in on our only second week of doing the Wednesday night special. Mixed feelings about Philip Rivers. Pretty much hated him for the first 15, 16 years of his career. He was just annoying. He ran his mouth so much. I remember he used to get on Jay Cutler when they were in the same division, and I liked Jay Cutler then. And then I even remember when he would play Tom in the Patriots. He'd always be running his mouth. But the last 2 years he really grew on me. I don't know if it's because he has so many children or because he's just he's a good football player. I mean, I kind of feel. I've been going back and forth ever since I heard he was going to retire, because I think we spoke on our show the last couple of times and we thought he was going to come back. We thought he might be a good fit for the Saints since we figured Drew was going to retire, and we thought he might even go back because they came pretty close this year. But, to me, he's kind of like a Dan Marino type player. Maybe falls into the Warren Moon, Dan Fouts area. And people always say, you got to win championships. He was on some really good teams. I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson, Gates, Sean Merriman. I think he played with Seau for a while too. Like, he had good players on his team. They just never could get over the hump. And I remember, in 2007, I think he played the AFC Championship game with a torn ACL. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's great, but should you have really been playing in the game? Maybe if you didn't play, your team would have got to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. It's just my mindset on it. But he's a solid player. People have a lot of good things to say about him. He doesn't curse, which makes things interesting. But, I mean, if you compare him to the people he was drafted with, Eli 1-2, Ben won 2. He didn't even get there. So, there's a lot. Is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, for me, I don't think so. I mean, you got to at least get there, right? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if you're as prolific of a passer as he was. I mean, you're gonna stick around for a while. Like the Len Dawsons of the world, the Jim Plunkett's of the world. Like, nothing to write home about. But at the end of the day, like really consistent. Regular season quarterback that remains on his resume. Yeah, it remains to be seen what would have happened if he bowed out of that championship game. But, you know, he kept them in contention. That's the one thing that you can ask of your quarterback is to keep your team going to the playoffs. And running into the New England Patriots, the New York Jets when they were relevant, the Steelers, you're gonna go up against good teams, the Ravens. So, there's no shame in losing to teams like that. And, he's just a product of his time. And I think history will eventually look more kindly on him. But right now, it's still very fresh and it remains to be seen, what his legacy truly is. I personally think he's a Hall of Famer,
Wow, really?
if
Okay.
yeah, you have lots of solid players, and
So who do you
more.
group him with? Like who do you group him with, in
Well,
your opinion?
great regular season, but not so great in the postseason. So that's going to put you in like the Warren Moons, like you mentioned. Dan Marino, although he did get to the Super Bowl in his rookie year. A
Yeah.
Randall Cunningham minus the legs. The good quarterbacks like that. Really, probably like I would say third tier. Not so much.
My whole thing is like, the records he holds, they'll be broken. I mean, even all of Dan Marino's records got broken. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not
but you
he
know
doesn't have
what?
anything left.
But that's the
And at
thing, though.
least
Like,
Dan was highly talented out of college, and Dan was, Mr. Miami Dolphin. Yeah, Phil Rivers is Mr. Charger, but I think Miami has a more of a legacy and more of a prestigious franchise than the San Diego Chargers. And you're also talking about a team that I don't think the Chargers have ever won a Super Bowl. They might not even have ever won one. I think he had some
they've
chances.
only been to one. So the
Yeah,
Stan
I mean, I
Humphries
think,
here.
yeah, yeah. Come on, Stan Humphries got that team to the Super Bowl. I mean, come on. Yeah, I just and granted, we'll find out. It just, to me, I always said this: the Hall of Fame is for elite players. Maybe players that change the game could also get in there too. I don't really think he did that. Especially if this kid Herbert comes in and turns the world on fire. You're gonna remember Philip Rivers. That's just the way I look at it. Like, I wouldn't compare him to Randall Cunningham. I think Randall Cunningham like redefined the quarterback position for the times. His ability to throw the ball and run the ball, and an amazing arm. Phil Rivers has an unorthodox style of releasing the ball, but you know, was he ever the greatest? Was he ever the best player in a season? No MVP awards either, and that leads us to the next guy we're going to talk about, who we think could possibly be retiring, is Drew Brees. And it's like this, he's kind of like the same thing. He's like, he was never the best player. You talk about players during his time. It was Manning, it was Brady, it was even Roethlisberger for a time, and it was like, oh, and Drew Brees. Oh, and they have Drew Brees, and oh, Drew Brees did this. I don't know if a lot of people walked into a game and was like, man, we gotta deal with Drew Brees today. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Rivers and with Breeze, they definitely. I mean, that you can't really go by records, in my opinion, just for the simple fact that the game isn't stopping. There's going to be another guy. Patrick Mahomes is in. He hasn't even hit his prime yet. So you're always going to have guys climbing up the list. And guys who are retiring can't come back to try and add to their legacy. So it's one of those
No.
things that you got to, take it for what it is. It's a product of its time. Like, we're going to have this discussion next week as well, because you know what? The MLB Hall of Fame is going to be announced, who is being inducted this year. and guys are gonna they're gonna fluctuate on the all-time home run list or the all-time strikeout list. Like, it is what it is. You just kind of have to appreciate him for what he was in his time, compare it to what was there, and in when he played, because you can't like I said, the record list and statistics are always going to move forward. So based on what he did, I think Philip Rivers did enough to get into the Hall of Fame, or at least in consideration. I mean, you're not going to go in first ballot with him. I mean, Calvin Johnson's not even going to go in first ballot. I mean, there's a nice little list put together, because Calvin Johnson feels slighted if he's not going to go in first ballot. T.O. didn't go in first ballot. Chris Carter didn't go in first ballot. Randy Moss didn't go in first ballot. And these guys are considered all-time greats. So Philip Rivers will get considered. Will it take time? Possibly. But that's, what's done is done for him. My frame of vision now turns to the Indianapolis Colts. You now have a wide open hole in the quarterback position with a team that is very readily made. If you are the GM of the Colts and you're Frank Reich and you have input in on this, where are you going? What are you doing to replace Philip Rivers?
A lot of people say, oh, make the deal for Wentz. That seems like, the perfect answer. And, a name that came up today that I thought would actually be a good idea is Matt Stafford, who's not even that far away over in Detroit. Like, that seems like a more of an idea to go get that guy, or just do it in the draft. Like, I would take a third rounder or a fourth rounder and see how it works out. I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't bet the bank on getting Wentz. And, I'm not going to, maybe I might talk to the 49ers about Jimmy G, especially if they're trying to get Watson. The price tag for Watson's too high, so I wouldn't even try to do that. But that, and you know what? If I got to roll with Brissett, I know it sucks, but I would do that. I wouldn't try. I really wouldn't kill myself to put a new quarterback back there.
I mean, Matt Stafford would definitely be a good upgrade, I think. He's going to be in demand because I think he would be a great fit in Washington. He would definitely be a great fit in Indy. So, and I think they're going to try and get him. Detroit sucked forever. I think they're going to try and do right by him as his career tails down. Another thing I wouldn't be surprised about, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, he's a free agent for 1 year. You draft a quarterback. You have a guy sit behind Fitzpatrick for a year, sit under the learning tree as it was once called, and just kind of like learn the ins and outs of being a pro. So that would be that would be fine. A few options.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, many moons ago, the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson, but they had signed Matt Flynn over the spring to be their quarterback. But, Russell Wilson beat him out for the job. So you could get in a situation, like that. I wouldn't go crazy for Wentz because it just seems like the Eagles, moved on from Doug Peterson because they want Wentz to stay there. So, I wouldn't try to get that guy. I would more or less try to draft a guy. Fitzpatrick sounds great. Stafford sounds even better because sometimes a change of scenery can really work wonders for a guy.
Absolutely. And, you do have plenty of quarterbacks out there. So, I mean, there are certainly going to be options. And another thing that might wear them off, we're going to talk about this later, is, the potential of the Deshaun Watson thing. So maybe you're going to hold tight and see what it's actually going to take to get a quarterback via trade, because that's going to be the benchmark depending on how talented the quarterback is. So, it remains to be seen. We're just going to have to buckle up. We're going to have to strap in on this, and we're going to see where the Colts go. But, I mean, they definitely.
I don't think they expected this. I don't think so.
You don't think they expected it?
No, I think they thought they were going to get, especially since they were so good this year, and he really wasn't hurt. I think they really thought he was going to come back for another year. I think this caught them by surprise, especially you got a guy like Drew Brees who hasn't announced anything yet. It's just like, well, what he was right away, and maybe he thought maybe he made this decision too soon. This is only 2 weeks after they lost. Sometimes your immediate gut is like, yeah, I'm out. I want to retire, but he does have some things lined up. He wants to go coach high school football in Alabama. He's really excited about that, and that should be interesting for him.
And whatever he decides to do, we wish you luck, Philip. You had a hell of a career, and if this is the end for you, good luck in the next chapter of your career.
Yeah, it was good. Not great.
It's time for the fade in, where we give a nod to the trending sports stories of the week. Speaking of good, not great, the NFC divisional playoff game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. Tampa Bay won by 10, 30-20, but really the star, and I will mockingly say the star of the game was Drew Brees, going 19-34 for 134 yards, 134.
Man, he crushed it.
Yeah, usually, Drew Brees, right? Back in the day, that used to be 341. And one touchdown and 3 picks. The key number is 3 picks. And that one little trick play that they threw in there, the little wrinkle, Jameis Winston threw a touchdown. So Winston's not throwing the picks. Drew Brees is throwing the picks. Let that sink in, boys and girls. Tom Brady didn't really need to do all that much. 18-33 for 199 and 2 touches. Fournette showed up, 17 for 63. A representative, respectable run game. But this game is about Drew Brees, and he didn't post. So if this is his last game, as Jay Glazer was alluding to, he's going out on an absolute dud. Does this impact his legacy? And let's really run it back to like the last 3 seasons where Drew Brees has not looked great. What is his overall legacy, and how's he going to be remembered?
Yeah, see, the thing for Drew, again, he's Dan Marino with a championship, right? He's got no league MVP rewards. He's got 1 Super Bowl ring. He wasn't the best passer of his generation. Let's be real, he wasn't. He's definitely a Hall of Famer, but he was like Philip. He was never the guy. Like I feel like there were other statues or big timers than him. He's first in passing yards, first in touchdown passes, first in completions, but all those records will be broken someday. And I think he was also snake bitten a lot in the playoffs. There was the Beastquake. There was the Minnesota missed tackle. There was an OPI call against the Rams. And Brady comes into the NFC South and just goes in your stadium and rips your heart out. His arm failed him though, right? Now it's being reported that he played the whole season with a torn rotator cuff. I hope that's not true, because that just sounds terrible, because the Saints were a very good team with 2 other guys that were capable of playing quarterback on that team. So if those reports are true, that would be very disappointing. But yeah, I think he's gonna be remembered in higher regard than Philip. And he did a lot for New Orleans, right? The whole Hurricane Katrina. He brought the Saints back. He put the Saints on the map. He made that a real tough place to go and play. Like you knew when you played you played Breeze and the Saints in New Orleans, you had to put up 30 points, 35 points if you guys were going to compete. The other tough thing that people don't realize is he was part of that Bounty Gate. He was on that team. He was actually the NFL rep on that team. It's kind of bad too. A lot of people don't talk about that stuff, but so yeah, that's how I remember him. Listen, you come into my house, you come into my basement, I got a poster of Drew Brees on my wall. I got, also a picture of him from when he won the Super Bowl. So I'm a fan of him. But for me, there were better guys during his time.
Drew Brees was a prolific passer. He definitely, he definitely established a culture along with Sean Payton down in New Orleans. I mean, before Hurricane Katrina, there wasn't much there, in terms of what does it mean to be a New Orleans Saint? I mean, they were known for Archie Manning and ruining his career. Like, that was like the highlight of New Orleans Saints fandom. Or Heath Schuler, I think, was on that team, and Kerry Collins tried to rebuild his career on that team. But it was it was a swamp. It was a swamp of mediocrity until Drew Brees and Sean Payton got there. So Drew Brees needs to be credited with taking that team and bringing an air of legitimacy to it. Got them to the Super Bowl, won them a Super Bowl. So all credit due. The past few years, he hasn't been as good. And you know what? Father Time is undefeated. So, it's just another guy that got old before our eyes, and we need to, and he needs to accept the fact that, hey, you know what? I got older, and this is what happens. Some guys fall off the cliff at some point. Any given point, it could be 32, could be 42. It could, in Tom Brady's case, it could be 46, 47.
Ha!
But he'll play as long as he wants to play. But with Drew Brees, he went from great to good to decent to holy shit. Now, if that report is true about him playing with a torn rotator cuff, that is ridiculously selfish on his part, trying to hold on to his job.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to think of him like that, especially when, he presents himself as an all, Mr. Team. Like, he wants to be the ultimate team player. But then if you hear that report, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on between perception and reality. But there's also cognitive dissonance, too, regarding Michael Thomas. Because, there were reports that Michael Thomas was playing hurt all year, too. And he went on IR earlier.
Well, hold on. He really didn't play all year. So, as a person who followed him or who was on his fantasy team, he really didn't play all year. I think he played like 4 games. So
right. But he also took some time off to make sure he was playoff ready, and he wasn't even that playoff ready.
Nope.
So, you hear these reports, and you hear, here comes the excuse train from the Saints. That's we lost because of that pass eye call. We lost because Stephon Diggs made that catch. We lost because enough.
Yeah.
All right. And if Drew Brees, I have a hard time personally believing that Drew Brees will go out on a game like that.
Really? So you think he might come back?
He's got pride, man. And I think he may give it another run.
You gotta remember last year was the thumb. This year it's the ribs, and now this rotator cuff thing. And you know what? This just came out like literally hours ago about this, and it kind of makes sense, right? They bring Jameis Winston in on the trick play to throw the bomb pass. All of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were sitting on the short routes. That's kind of why they couldn't move the ball as efficiently as they could. So I don't know if I doubt it, but still, he overcame a lot to do what he did. He was the number 1 passer in high school, coming out, and he didn't get any offers from any of the Texas schools, which led him to Purdue, where I think he led the nation in completion percentage. And then he goes to San Diego, and he's about to get washed out. He's just not playing up to par. So they go and draft Phillip Rivers. Then all of a sudden, Marty Schottenheimer, I believe, is the coach. They turn it around. They go like 13-3. He gets hurt. He hurts his shoulder, and then he winds up possibly signing with the Dolphins.
Which we will get into at another time in deeper depth.
The Dolphins medical staff says, this shoulder's bad. We don't want him. And then he ends up with the Saints, and it's all history after that. So, he had quite the football career.
Absolutely. And like we said to Philip Rivers, Drew Brees, if this is your last game and you call it a career, congratulations. And we wish you nothing but luck in your future endeavors.
But now this guy actually did have a great career. He really did.
No, he did. Absolutely. And you know who else is having a great career? Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And this feels like a little bit of destiny that they are playing each other this weekend in the NFC title game in Lambeau Field. This is the first NFC title game that Aaron Rodgers will be playing in Lambeau, and that just it blows your mind a little bit considering that the history of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. So, the Packers offense is on fire here. They just vanquished the number one overall defense. Granted, Aaron Donald was hurt. Let's just be fully transparent on that. Aaron Donald, barely played. Tom Brady put up a representative performance, like I said, 199 in terms of yardage against a pretty good, I think it's the fourth overall defense in the New Orleans Saints. Who's taking this game? Brady or Rodgers? Whose offense is going to have the last laugh in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not betting against Brady. There's no way. No way. Especially, it looks like they finally listened to me and started running the damn football, which changed the complexion of the game. You had Rojo and Fournette tearing it up. Rodgers, I think, has actually lost the last 3 or 4 NFC Championship games he's played in. But this game is not going to be like the game we saw earlier in the season when the Bucs just blew the Packers out, from really the second quarter on. This is going to be more of a chess match. So, I wrote some things down here. Whenever I'm looking at teams play, I just kind of go position by position and say, okay, who's better? Who's the better quarterback right now? Okay, Rodgers, even though I'm a Tom Brady fan, say Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback right now. Who's got the better running game? I'm going to go with Rojo and Fournette. Okay. Who's the better wide receivers? Geez, the Bucs have Brown, Godwin, Evans. I'm gonna go. Who's the better tight ends? The Bucs got Gronk and Brate. Yeah, the Rodgers has Tunyon, but they're not Gronk and Brate. Who's got the better D line? Geez, Sue, Paul, Vita Villa's gonna play in this game. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bucs on that one too. Who's got the better linebackers? Geez, Tampa Bay's got White and David. I can't even name one of the Packers linebackers. And then who's got the better secondary? Now there, I'll give it to the Packers because Jair Alexander is really, really good. Better kicker? Mason Crosby. I'll give it to him. And then who's got the better coach? Who's got the better head coach? I'll give it to LaFleur just because Arians really, didn't do well earlier in the season, and LaFleur is a little bit of a mastermind. I'll give him some of that. But who's the better DC? Not Pettin. I'm going with Bowles. So all that said, I'm going with Tampa Bay in this game. The only advantage that they're going to have is that it's going to be cold, but Tom's played in cold. So, and Bakhtiari, I don't believe, is playing, right? I'm not sure.
No, Bakhtiari's out. No.
Bakhtiari's out. So, I have a hard time picking against Tom Brady, man. He's a bad man.
He is a bad man. He's got that indomitable will, but you know who else has that indomitable will? That's Aaron Rodgers. Like, they are cut from the same cloth in that regard.
Are they? Are they really?
Oh, yes. I would say so. Yes. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers holds personal slights against his own fucking family, for Christ's sake. Like he remembers.
There was that one time I pulled in a parking space ahead of him. He didn't really like that either.
He slashed your tires, didn't he? That's Aaron Rodgers. Spite is a motivator. So I don't root. Granted, who picked him last? Who picked him last in the division? Me. And who's eating their words right now? Me. So. It's going to be a good game. I would call the running game matchup a push. I really like what I see from Jones, Dillon, and even Jamal Williams is showing up a little bit for them. So,
as far as players are concerned, I can hear that and understand it, but they're not going to run the ball on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line. That's not happening. That's just not happening. Look at what Kamara did. Kamara is way better than any of those guys on the Packers.
Well, Kamara is, he is a better running back, and he is going to, he's also going to exploit holes in the passing game too. So he's definitely like, they don't have really that element in the Packers running game, but I do like the fact that they're going to keep at it. Whereas in the past, Aaron Rodgers would get away from the running game just because it's not working. And honestly, this may be like, no offense to like James Starks and Eddie Lacy, the last time they had a relevant running game, but like these three combined remind me a lot of the Amon Green running game, to where like it actually gets
what about Ryan Grant.
Off.
Remember that guy?
Ryan Grant for a little while. That's right. But yeah, I forgot about him. Actually, his career was that short. But like, but it definitely gets them off Rodgers a little bit, in the same way that Fournette and Rojo get them off Brady. So I think that we're going to see a lot of the running game. I mean, if I'm the offensive coordinator for either team, it's a very run-heavy attack, play action, and you're going to take your shots downfield if you got them. So
I think Aaron has a lot to lose in this game, though. There's more on the line for him here, because he's getting the home NFC title game. He's never had that. And like I said, I'm pretty sure he's either lost 3 or 4 in a row. So if he loses this, I mean, that's to Tom.
Yeah,
and
right.
then if you want to even go another further, if Tom beats Drew Brees, makes Drew Brees retire, then goes into Lambeau Field, beats Aaron Rodgers, and then Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP, dear Lord, that is
Dirk
crazy.
Nowitzki.
It's crazy, man.
Shut it down. Let's go home.
Because I don't really think Tom is feeling any pressure walking into that building. And I do think Aaron feels like, I need to win this game.
Well, I mean, the pressure is definitely on the home team. The pressure is on the number 1 seed. That's always going to be the case. All I know is that we are going to be in for a real treat, because both of these guys, both these quarterbacks, are going to put on a clinic.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game.
I'm watching them. No, it's a total video game. And just like, what's really great about this is actually not having the fans in the stands. So you can actually hear them manipulate the line, call the audibles. You really get to hear a lot of what's going on, and for the casual fan or even the hardcore fan, I mean, it's a great thing. You're going to hear stuff like this.
John, what? Red 7. I don't know what Red 7 means. Hot route. I don't know what is hot route. Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Oh, sorry. That was a clip from last year's Patriots. I'm sorry about that. At least, this year Tom has competent receivers, so he doesn't have to tell them to go stand, just to go stand over there. So good for Tom. And either way, it's going to be a great game. And we'll get to our official picks later on in the show, boys and girls. Now, the Baltimore Ravens against the Buffalo Bills. They didn't post again. However, unlike years previous where Lamar Jackson just did not play well, he left the game in the third quarter due to a concussion, had to be replaced by Tyler Huntley of Utah. If you had to look that up, so did I. So, granted, Buffalo moved the ball at will on a stout Ravens defense. They looked very good, and all things considered, it was a very extremely windy day. It probably, Justin Tucker isn't going to miss those 2. You would think. He missed 2 field goals. You figure he wouldn't miss them unless it's really, the weather's really shitty. So was this loss due to Lamar's early exit, or was this a sign that Buffalo really stepped up?
Yeah, I really do think, Lamar's early exit hurt the Ravens. Think the Ravens defense only gave up 10 points to Buffalo. They
right,
had
the pick
six. So, Sean McDermott's a defensive guy. he came in with a game plan, and it's the game plan that a lot of teams were having success with against Lamar Jackson was, we're not going to let him run the ball. We're going to make him throw it. We're going to make him get rid of the ball. So that's why they held him to 3.3 yards per game. And meanwhile, he usually averaged 6 during the regular season. So, I do think Buffalo is a good team, but they don't have a run game. And I think they're going to be in trouble next week when they play the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, they definitely don't have an established run game right now because of the injury to Zach Moss. But, they picked their spots with Devin Singletary. TJ Yeldon was on this team all year, and you hear Chris Collinsworth saying he doesn't have enough experience in the system. How much time do you need in the system before you can run a run play? Like, he's been there for the entire season. It's not like they just got him off the street. So,
he's a really good player, too.
Yeah. I mean, you got to coach up your guys, and, Josh Allen got out of the pocket a little bit. He did run for some, but I mean, he was just making he was making the throws that you need him to make, and he exploited the Ravens defense, which is a really good defense. So, I mean, a little from column A, a little from column B. Lamar Jackson was playing decent. He was taking what the defense gave him. Buffalo is a speed-based defense. It's definitely not a powerful defense. So, I mean, they were dinking, dunking, moving the ball. The pick six was a killer. Tyron Johnson definitely, he made the right read and took it back 101 yards. So all credit to him. Yeah, I mean, once Lamar Jackson went out, the air went out of the building. You don't have a competent backup in RG3. You don't even have a competent backup in a Joe Flacco. You had to go to a rookie who's playing his second career game, maybe third career game. They were dead in the water. Now, can the Bills travel to Arrowhead next week and put up the same performance? I'm not 100% sure on that. But one thing I do know is that the Kansas City Chiefs aren't exactly invincible right now. And they beat the Cleveland Browns 22-17, but it came at a heavy price. It's like that theme. You won the game, right? Yeah. What did it cost you?
Everything.
Everything. Especially when Patrick Mahomes took that hit, you knew it was over. He's on spaghetti legs, man. And his linemen were holding him up. You knew he was done. Chad Henne came in, threw a pick. Chad Henne is Chad Henne. Any Dolphin fan can tell you that. 6-8 for 66 and a pick. Ultimately, I mean, the Browns almost won this game. So it makes you wonder, are the Browns going to be back, or is this a flash in the pan? How good can they be? Because they almost took down the reigning defending champs.
Yeah, I mean, Baker almost pulled it off. I think they will be back, but it will be mainly due to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I think they should try to move Odell during the offseason because they don't need him. Baker made some great throws when it mattered, and he definitely matured this season. I mean, if Rashard Higgins holds on to that pass, diving for the end zone, for those of you who didn't watch the game, towards the end of the second half, Baker makes a beautiful throw. Higgins reaches for the boundary, fumbles the ball into the end zone, turns it out into a touchback. Kansas City gets the ball back. But, they were in the game. He was doing his best to go toe-to-toe with Mahomes. And I think they're going to be okay, especially you're going to see Ben. Ben's going to leave, or Ben's on his way out. Joe Burrow is hurt. He's going to have to recover and come back. So, and Lamar, unless they get him a receiver or two, they're going to be beatable. So Cleveland's got a chance to get back here.
We live in a weird world where Baker Mayfield could be the best quarterback in that division. Like that, I mean,
passer.
For all the
For
all the trash that has been talked about him by me, definitely. I mean, I have talked a lot of shit about Baker Mayfield. I'm not a fan, but he took the team and he led the team. He did exactly what you expect a quarterback to do. So he is making great strides as a professional and as a quarterback. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu, the greats have been picked off by Tyrann Mathieu, so there's no shame in getting picked off by the Honey Badger.
And you could tell he lurks. He knows what he's doing. He reminds me of Ovechkin. He's like a lurk. He waits and he picks his spots and he gets lucky, but sometimes he doesn't. On the goal line, he guessed wrong and Kareem Hunt powered in for a touchdown.
No. Like, he definitely can get burned if he's not if he guesses wrong, it's game over. But when he guesses right, he has the potential to take it back to the house.
Very good player.
Great player, absolutely. And the running game plays. As long as you keep Chubb, Hunt, you keep this system in place.
Yeah.
There are going to be some great things for the Cleveland Browns. I completely agree with you that Odell Beckham needs to be off this team. He's unnecessary. No. I wouldn't even venture a guess to where to send him at
Buffalo.
This point, you know?
Send him to Buffalo.
Oh, God. That would be very interesting. The Buffalo Bills, I'm going over their wide receiver core, and they're 5 or 6 guys deep in that. I mean, they have some talented players. Isaiah McKenzie doesn't touch the field that often, but he is a dynamic player with the ball in his hands. So with this particular game that we have going on with the Bills and the Chiefs, it's not going to be all one-sided offensively. Both teams are going to play a representative offense. I mean, the big question mark is going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's out of the protocol. He's practicing. So, I mean, there's a good shot that he's going to play on Sunday. So I don't know if we're getting 100% Patrick Mahomes because he's also dealing with a toe injury. But both of these teams are going to bring it offensively. For me, it's which defense doesn't break completely. They're going to bend. They're absolutely going to bend. They're going to give up a lot of yards. But who's going to break at the end? Moving on to baseball, we've had a couple of moves being made. It was dead for a while, and now we've got some movement. The New York Yankees brought in DJ LeMahieu, re-signed him to a 5-year contract, I believe, with an option for a 6th. Corey Kluber, after his pitching showcase, inked a 2-year deal with the Bronx Bombers. Just yesterday, after finding out about the GM of the Mets apparently sending people dick pics, and it wasn't even his dick, which is kind of like, as a Met fan, I'm embarrassed and also ashamed.
62 messages unresponded.
60. Oh my God. I mean, that's just, oh dude.
The guy, and then, you know what's crazy is the guy's a real pedigree. Like he started off in Boston. You know, he's got rings with the Red Sox. He's apparently Theo's guy. He goes to the Chicago Cubs, helps build that team, wins a World Series there. Then he was out in Arizona the last couple of years. And now he's coming to the Mets. It's just like, dude, what are you doing?
No, it's just irresponsible. And you know what? It also falls on the Mets. Like, you have to go through the vetting process. ESPN has had these text messages since 2017.
And just to be clear, this is definitely not a joking matter. Like we really think this is very serious. It's just a shame, and you just wouldn't expect it, like from a GM or from a high regarded person. Like this guy, he's got people that respect him and want him to be a part of their franchise. He's got a good reputation, and you know. What would bring you to do something like that? Like, you know, when I'm sitting home and I'm watching games, I want to bet on the games. I'm not thinking about things like that. It's just, I don't know. But you know what? Rightfully so, he's gone. And you know what? He's not even worth us talking about. It's better to talk about these pickups by the Yankees. You know, when I looked at this, you know, at the first time I saw it, I thought DJ LeMahieu was a steal. 6 years, $90 million, $15 million a year. Guy could play every position in the infield. He's got a batting title in both leagues. It's like wow, and he doesn't get hurt. Like he just doesn't get
That's a
hurt.
no-brainer. It's a complete no-brainer.
Kluber, now this one I don't know. I mean, it's a 1 year, $11 million. Smoke him if you got him. 30. He's 34 years old. He didn't really even play last year. His best years were in 2016 to 2018, where he averaged 18 wins and a 2.9 ERA. If that's not what you're gonna get, then I don't see why. To me, you just keep J.A. Happ. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never.
You can't keep J.A. Happ. He just went to the Minnesota Twins.
I know, but I'm just trying to say, like, so what's the rotation now? Cole, Kluber, Herman, Montgomery, and you gonna throw in Severino in there somewhere?
So if I'm Brian Cashman, I don't have Tanaka, I don't have Paxton. Severino, you don't know what he's going to get because he's still coming off surgery. Domingo Herman is still under the domestic violence suspension. So that really leaves you Clark Schmidt, Davey Garcia, Jordan Montgomery. Kluber automatically goes to number 2 in that rotation. He has to.
Yeah. I thought the same thing.
No. Now, all this does is you put up a big billboard for those guys, for Paxton and Tanaka. Like, miss me yet? You're really going to go to the playoffs with that rotation? You sure now? How many openers are you going to end up using? Because the Blue Jays just landed George Springer. They took him from the Mets. The Mets had him surrounded. It was just going to be great. And then Mr. Dick Pick happened, and George Springer ends up in Toronto.
I think they lost out. I think they lost out on some other guys. Like some other guys were in the process of getting signed, and they found out about this, and they don't want to have any part of it. And I actually heard that Cohen has. He's never did anything like that, but I heard he's got a kind of a bad reputation of shaming people that work for him. I'm starting to think back to the de Blasio kind of like, holding back, signing off on this thing. And I'm wondering, is there stuff that he knew,
Well, maybe. I don't know. It remains to be seen. But as far as the Yankees go, like they need to shore up this rotation. And at the end of the day, pitching still wins. Pitching will get you there. You cannot afford to be a fully offensive team. And I mean, your bullpen, it's not as good as you think it is. Just look, how many games does Chapman have to blow in the playoffs before you realize maybe this bullpen is not?
They still have Avellino?
They still have Ottavino. Friggin' went in the tank last year. So like they got to the point where they weren't even using him in high leverage situations.
Yeah.
So I mean, they still got Chad Green. They still have Zach Britton.
I like Chad Green. Yeah, they got guys.
I like Green a lot.
Their bullpens, yeah. I think their bullpen's better than their starting rotation. I don't have any.
But that's the problem, though. You're going to have to use your bullpen in the third, fourth inning sometimes because these guys won't be able to get out of their minutes, or they're going to do the sabermetric argument again, like they were doing with Tanaka, where they wouldn't let him go through the order 3 times. So, like, they're a very strategically sabermetric team, and these analytics are really affecting their spending in terms of what they're bringing to the table. And the Yankees, they need to do something because, like I said, the Blue Jays are adding. The Blue Jays are ramping it up. They want it to be a 2-horse race, and it's going to be a 2-horse race. So, I
don't know if the Blue Jays have the pitching though. I mean, they definitely have a lot of young talent, and they're
neither do the Yankees.
No,
neither does the Yankees.
No, but the Yankees can hit. I mean, they're going to score runs. There's not a doubt about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, both teams are going to score runs. On paper, both of their lineups are really good. And the Blue Jays just added Kirby Yates. They added Tyler Chatwood. Like, they have arms in that pen. Do they have the name recognition of the Yankees arms? No, but they are top.
This all comes down to Severino, I think. Because if Severino, he can't come back, I don't trust. I mean, the only person I really trust would probably be Cole and Herman. You got to think Herman can play with all the rest that he's gotten, and he was pretty much their ace, last time he played. So, I don't have any faith in their rotation. I don't have any faith in their team, but There's
No,
really nobody.
honestly,
There's nobody in that division that's running away with this thing. I mean, Tampa went through a shakeup, so they're back to being the Tampa Bay Rays again. So I don't know.
it is going to be it's going to be an attrition this year, and I don't know if if a wild card spot's gonna come out of the American League East. So, cinch it up, get some starting pitching depth. You're gonna need it, especially with this season. You're definitely going to have to start running some guys back and forth. Like Montgomery just came back last year. Schmidt, who knows? Garcia, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of question marks, and the Yankees need to they need to do something outside of keeping their own house in order. And you're actively losing players from that roster that got bounced last year. So improvements need to be made if you really want to get to the next level, like the Yankees are want to do. Order up! There's also been some coaching movement this week, boys and girls, in the NFL. And we are going to rank them. We're going to order them up.
Order up!
The top order up from 5 to 1. Which is the best hire? Now, for those of you not in the know, we're going to start Urban Meyer. He is the new coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Robert Saleh, the DC of the San Francisco 49ers, is now the head coach of the Jets. Arthur Smith, now the coach of the Atlanta Falcons, was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. Brandon Staley, the DC for the Los Angeles Rams, is now the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't even know if he needs to change offices if they play in the same building. So maybe he doesn't have to. And last but not least, the Detroit Lions hired former Lions tight end and New Orleans Saints assistant Dan Campbell. So I will leave it to you. From 5 to 1, order them up, D. Which is the best, which is the worst?
Yeah, so I'm starting with the worst, I think, is Brandon Staley to the Chargers. I think the Chargers really missed here hiring a guy who's never been a head coach to coach their team. I think they took for granted how well Justin Herbert played, this year. He still needs to be coached. He still needs to be taught how to play quarterback in the NFL. He still needs to come along strong. And I think unless they knew they couldn't land the enemy, I think they really missed here. Even if they would have went with just a more offensive-minded coach. 4 for
Brian
me.
Daboll?
I don't really like that guy. I know a lot of people like him. I'm not really. I don't really like that guy. I think does he know offense? Yeah. Can he lead a team? And that I don't know about. Number 4 for me is Robert Saleh. I just think that the Jets are going down the same road they go in every time. And this is not a knock on Saleh. I think he's actually a good coach. He's a rah-rah guy, and he's gonna, coach defense very well, but they just don't get it. It's like they're trying to jam a triangle shape into a circle hole. Like, that's what I feel like here. It's like you've got Sam Darnold, who clearly is struggling, who clearly needs help here, and you go and you get a defensive coach who has no head coaching experience. How the hell is he going to develop Sam Darnold? Are you basing not getting an offensive guy because this Adam Gase thing didn't go well? Is that where this is coming from? Because
Adam Gase's problems were way beyond the offense. Let's be real
here. They got young quarterbacks. I was doing some research. The last head coach to finish his career with an overall 500 record in the tenure with the New York Jets was Al Groh, who retired after one season of going 9-7. Like, it just doesn't end well. And they pick all defensive guys with Herm Edwards, Mangini, Rex Ryan, Bowles. Gase is the only guy where you came in and went offensive, but please don't compare Gase to any of those guys. So for me, it's like, come on, man. So number 3, I'm gonna go with Dan Campbell and Arthur Smith here too, because for me, they're not setting him up to fail, but what they're pretty much saying is, okay, let's get this guy in here, and we could possibly get an overall number 1 pick out of it, right? because you're basically gutting the team. They missed on Kerryon Johnson. Galladay's always hurt. He could possibly be a guy that gets traded to the Ravens, right?
I think he's a free agent, actually.
So there you go. He's a guy that can go and sign with the Ravens. Swift is okay. I don't think he's as good as they wanted him to be. He's good. It just seems like they're trying to make their team worse. They're still the worst team in the division, with or without Campbell as their head coach. And the same thing with Arthur Smith. Like, he's inheriting a team where he doesn't have Derrick Henry. So what offense are you running? How are you gonna make this work? And again, I think the mindset is let's see if he can get another year out of Matt Ryan or whoever they're gonna have there. And if it fails, it's not a big deal. But now moving on to what I think were good hires is I do think Urban Meyer is a good hire. He's a guy who's a proven winner. He wins wherever he goes, and he wins quickly. He knows how to coach players. The only problem is he doesn't stay long, and he usually leaves because of personal or health reasons. So
or the NCAA is about to crack down. No NCAA.
So I'm curious to see, how this goes and how he takes to coaching as a head coach in the NFL. I want to see what offense he runs. And, kind of like we've spoken about before, it's hard to be a good college coach and it doesn't always transition to the NFL. And the best hire, I think, it's actually not a coaching hire. I'm going to go with the Jaguars going and getting Trent Baalke. I know he's not a coach, but he helped turn around the 49ers around about 10 years ago. He took a 6-10 team and he made them a Super Bowl contender. So I think that the signing of Trent Baalke as the GM is the best hire this week. What say you?
Well, Trent Baalke is a great hire. Granted, I believe he still has the interim tag on him from when they fired Caldwell, but I think he should get the job just for the simple fact that he masterminded that team and took them from a joke to playing in a Super Bowl. Granted, he had Jim Harbaugh helping him, but
which they clashed, and then that ended.
And then that ended the Kaepernick thing, the Alex Smith thing. You went from having two quality caliber quarterbacks to now you got nothing. You got Nick Mullins, and Jimmy G's probably going someplace else. For me, number 5 is Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Just seeing how pedestrian his offense is when Derrick Henry's not running the ball well, it's not inspiring.
He just looks he just looks like a guy that eats a pastrami sandwich and the pastrami hangs out of his mouth. That's kind of the feeling I get when I see Arthur Smith on the sideline.
Yeah, it's like his eyes are too close together. I don't know, something. It's just like, what is going on?
Are you looking at me? I can't tell.
it's like, you're right. Why aren't you blinking? It's not inspiring what he's done in Tennessee without Derrick Henry. You need multiple.
Right.
You need to diversify your offense, and it seems very much like a one-trick pony. And Atlanta has no running game to speak of right now. We've been speculating that Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are going to get traded, so he's going to be on the short end of a rebuilding process. Number 4 is Dan Campbell. Now, Dan Campbell was an interim head coach before with the Miami Dolphins, showed great intensity, great fire, was a borderline insane on the sidelines, and that definitely,
battle
that
by combat.
That wins you points with fans. They see that you care about this as much as they do. However, you're walking into a situation in Detroit, like you said. The best player on that offense, Marvin Jones, he's okay. TJ Hawkinson, he's all right.
Oh, I forgot about
him. You don't even know if Matthew Stafford's going to be there next year. So, you're walking into I'm out of here. WTF? Why is Stafford on the WFT? Oh shit. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be, great for Mr. Campbell. Number 3 is Brandon Staley, mostly because of the fact that he was the coordinator for the number 1 overall defense in the NFL. Granted, he's not taking them with him, but he is getting Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, and hopefully Derwin James is back next year. So the cupboard isn't bare with the Chargers. He just needs to make a really, really good offensive hire as far as the coordinator position. So no Brian Schottenheimer. Move the ball down the friggin' field. Actually, you know what? Go get Darrell Bevell. Go get Darrell Bevell from Detroit. That is he's better than what you got. He's better than what you got. So I would take him over Schottenheimer any day and twice on Sunday. Number 2, I like Robert Saleh at number 2. I still don't know. Again, he's another guy who's going to have to bring in a really good offensive coordinator. He's a rah-rah guy, a team guy, and he's very highly spoken of by every player he's ever coached. So that, to me, that's the Listerine that kind of washes the taste of Adam Gase out of the Jet fans' mouth. Because outside of Peyton Manning, who has talked highly of Adam Gase? Adam Gase's wife? Is he even married? His mother? Does his mother even love him? I don't know. But it's definitely a more palate cleansing type of hire. And number 1 is Urban Meyer with a huge asterisk. Urban Meyer is a risky move. He's been out of the game for a while. He's never coached in the pros at the head coaching level. I've heard comps to Jimmy Johnson when he came out of the U. That is very high. That's a very high comparison. I mean, it remains to be seen. But there are a lot of holes in Jacksonville. If Trevor Lawrence goes, what system are you going to run? If you decide to if you don't go for Trevor Lawrence, you decide to go for Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson. How does this team? How does this change? Do you go with a veteran quarterback? We got to see what Balky and Urban Meyer, what they plan on doing. But based on track record and pedigree, he's easily the number 1 guy on this list. So how we do, guys, pick your order and send it to us at faderoutemail@gmail.com, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get featured on the Fade Route. More or less? Really simple build, guys. It's either more likely or less likely. More or less, Patrick Mahomes plays effectively on Sunday. What say you?
I'm going to say it's more likely. He participated in practice today. I think it's a good sign. The only thing I'm concerned with is his toe, but again, I think he's going to be fine. He went on Twitter and said he thinks he'll be fine to play. So, judging by the last presidency, Twitter is really supreme. So, yeah, I think he's more likely to play and be effective.
Twitter reigns supreme, but it also can spread some misinformation sometimes. Maybe this is just a little red herring and he's not ready to go right now. And they're coaching up Chad Henne in addition to Patrick Mahomes. Who knows? A little intrigue, maybe. A little subterfuge. That being said, I'm going more likely. Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid are definitely going to scheme a way for him to play effectively. If he's not mobile, he's not running, plain and simple. And they have to drill it into his head. If his toe is really bothering him, throw the ball away. Don't try and scramble. Don't try and gain the extra yard. If it's not there, throw the ball away. This is going to be like Josh Allen. It's not there. He's throwing the ball away more often than he ran against the Ravens defense. So we saw some maturity from him. Patrick Mahomes needs to take that next step up in order to become that fully formed quarterback. Right now, great highlight reel. Just those little extra little mental acuities are going to take him to an all-time legend. I'm still going more likely, though. More or less, Gonzaga finishes the season undefeated. I'm going more likely on this just because they've played the toughest teams that they're going to play. They played Iowa, they played Kansas, they played West Virginia. They are firmly entrenched in their conference schedule right now, and they are blowing the doors off of these guys. I think the most recent game was actually the closest game that they've played all year, and it was still a 15-point blowout. So it's hard to take Gonzaga seriously sometimes when they play these cupcakes. they definitely, I'm not saying that they need to leave this conference and, maybe like go to the Pac-12 or something like that, but you definitely need to prove yourself a little bit more than going up against the West Coast Conference like San Francisco U and Loyola Marymount and St. Mary's. It's not really stiff competition. So that being said, they're going to roll.
Yeah, I am actually going to say it's less likely. I know they've already played the toughest teams in their schedule and they've beaten them handily, but it's really hard to go undefeated. And they have one more game against St. Mary's, and I think that's where the loss is going to come from. Those rivalry games within the conference. Your opponents know you; they know what's coming. I think they get nicked by St. Mary's.
Okay, St. Mary's. I mean, that was their closest loss, so that's definitely within the realm of possibility. More or less likely, Deshaun Watson suits up as a Texan next season.
See, this is kind of a tricky question, right? And I am going to say more likely, and the reason is, word on the street is that they want 3 number ones for him. I mean, that's a lot, and there's not a lot of teams that could actually do it. Like the Jets could do it, Dolphins could do it, but that's a large asking price. We also don't know who the coach is going to be. Like, let's say the Texans go out and get the enemy. I mean, he's more likely to stay if that happens. So I'm going to say more likely he will be a Texan next season.
Well, I mean, it really all depends because, like the Bieniemy hire, like he is really a victim of the Chiefs' success because you can't hire a coach off of a playoff team until your team has been eliminated. So, like Eric Bieniemy, like that's the reason why Dan Campbell just got his job and Brandon Staley just got his job. It's just sometimes you're a victim of the success of your team. That being said, I'm going less likely. I don't necessarily think that, this is a reparable situation. They hired the GM without any input. Granted, I am of the mind that players play, coaches coach, and GMs run the team. But, at that level, sometimes just even if you decide not to go with his hire or go with his choice, you need to sometimes humor a player by scheduling an interview, having an interview, just to feel, just to make him feel like you're really taking to heart what their interests are. You can definitely get a huge haul for Deshaun Watson, and there's so many needs that the Texans need. And Cesario comes from the Patriots school, and there's going to be a team that blinks, and there's going to be a team that's going to offer that up. The Jets have done it in the past. They have made those kinds of deals. They have picks. I'm not saying they have picks to burn, but they definitely have picks from other trades that they can use so they can keep their picks. So this is a situation where the Jets actually are in a great leveraged position. The Dolphins, another team, they can actually use, like I've said in the past, they can use Tua in addition to their picks to make it a little bit more palatable if the new organization believes in Tua. And granted, like there's still no head coach. We need to see where they're going and what their vision is. But after the Hopkins thing, I think it was a bridge too far for Watson, and he's pretty much done as a Texan. Most of those guys are, because they got to tear it down and start from scratch. Time to see what's cooking this weekend, sponsored by As You Eat It, only on YouTube. That's A-Z, You Eat It. Check it out today. How'd you do last week in the pick segment, brother?
Gee, how did I do? Well, I had the Rams beating Green Bay. I had Baltimore beating Buffalo. So I crashed and burned there. But I did have KC beating Cleveland, and I did have Tampa beating Nola. So I went 2-2.
2-2, that's not bad. I mean,
watch and learn, he said. While I was watching, you know what I saw? It's
You're still alive, brother. You're still alive. So take it for what it is. I mean, I went 4-0 last week, but
Hey.
I'm not here to toot my own. I'm not here to toot my own horn, but
So then we got to hear who you got this week.
There we go. We're gonna start with the NFC title game. It's very hard for me to pick against Tom Brady in this game, and I'm not gonna. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Aaron Rodgers-led Green Bay Packers. It's going to be close. It's going to be a run game, and Brady's just going to do just enough to win. I can even see a missed field goal at the end by Crosby.
Oh, imagine if it's a missed field goal by Suckup. Oh, that'd be awful. Tom might not let him fly back with the team.
You got to walk back to Florida.
And then who you got in the AFC game?
Well, who are you taking, brother?
Oh, I'm taking Tom all the way. You know it.
Of course. And for the AFC title game, I'm taking the Bills. I like what I see right now. And, it gives me a little bit pause with that concussion from Patrick Mahomes and the injury. So, that
would definitely be some Star Wars type shit if the Bills finally get to the Super Bowl and they have to play against Tom Brady. Oh God! What you gotta be kidding me! That would be
oh man, tell me that wouldn't be such a great storyline.
Oh gosh, the Dark Sith Lord.
Right. Oh, you thought you slayed the dragon, huh? I'm here.
I'm taking Kansas City. I think Pat Mahomes on one leg and one arm could beat the Buffalo Bills. I just think the Bills don't have the running game. That's why. They think they'll play really good defense, but Allen and Diggs can't do it all by themselves.
A crazy thought I had when I was watching the game the other day. Like, you know who the Bills need? Frank Gore.
They need to start Wedman.
Yeah. You always say they need to start Wedman. That's why he's 1-7.
I don't know if they need Frank Gore. I think Moss is really good. He just unfortunately he got hurt.
No, I mean right now they could definitely use Frank Gore. Old Man River gets the job done.
Well, thanks for tuning in tonight. You can catch our podcast every Wednesday nights on the Anchor, Spotify, or other outlets where you listen to your podcasts. Until next time, stay faded, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Rate us 5 stars, leave us a review, turn on subscription notifications, and tell your friends. Spread the word, spread it wide.